For every cold case that is cracked, there are many more tragic tales of mysterious disappearances or unexplained deaths that remain unsolved. Here are 5 of the most chilling unsolved crimes. Sit tight and enjoy. The unusual deaths of the Jameson family. The bodies of this family of 3 were discovered 4 years after they were reported missing, on October 8, 2009. Bobby Jameson, Sherlyn Jameson, and their daughter, Madison Jameson, disappeared from their truck while on a trip to buy land outside their hometown. In the days following their disappearing, the family's truck was discovered by authorities, abandoned with their IDs, phones, GPS system, and approximately $32,000 in cash. Their dog was also found in the vehicle, malnourished after days of being left in the truck without food or water. In November 2013, the remains of 2 adults and 1 child, eventually confirmed as the Jameson family, were found by hunters about 3 miles from where the breakup was left. Many theories have been floated about the circumstances behind the family's mysterious disappearance. Some believed they faked their deaths, committed group suicide, or were killed by a violent cult. Due to the couple's odd behavior around the time they vanished, others believed that a drug deal had gone wrong, according to some, as he and his son were in bitter lawsuit at the time. The creepiest theory included a pastor, a confession, and a book. The Jameson had at one point told their pastor there were spirits in their home, and that they had consulted the Satanic Bible to rid the house of them. When authorities searched their property following the initial disappearance, there was a shipping container with messages such as 3 cats killed to date by people in this area. Witches don't like their black cat killed, written on it. The case of the lead masks. On August 20, 1966, a boy flying a kite found the bodies of 2 Brazilian men in Rio de Janeiro. Both men were dressed in suits, wearing waterproof coats and lead masks, similar to those you would typically wear to protect against radiation. Discovered alongside their grass-covered bodies on Ventum Hill were 2 towels, an empty water bottle, and a notebook. 3 days earlier, the 2 men had departed Campus dos Goitacazes with a large amount of cash on hand, claiming their trip was to buy supplies and a car. As more information about the men surfaced, it was revealed that they were electronic technicians and scientific spiritualists with interests in both ghosts and extraterrestrials. In the hours leading up to their deaths, Miguel Jose Viana and Manuel da Cruz stopped at a bar for water. A waitress, the last person to see them alive, would later tell authorities that both seemed in quite a hurry, especially Viana, who kept checking his watch. It seems there was a reason for this. When authorities inspected the pair's notebook, they discovered the following note: 1630, be at a great place. 1830, swallow capsules. After effect, protect metals, wait for mask signal. To this day, the cause of death remains unknown. The Springfield 3. 3 women mysteriously vanished from a home in Springfield, Missouri, sometimes between the night of June 6 and the morning of June 7, 1992. After a night of a graduation party, 19-year-old Suzanne Streeter and 18-year-old Stacy McCall headed to a friend's to crash. After deciding it was too crowded, the 2 returned to Streeter's house, where her mother, Cheryl Elizabeth Levitt, awaited. When friends stopped by early next morning to pick up the girls for a planned water park trip, all 3 women were gone. Everything in the house was seemingly untouched. Purses, keys, neatly folded clothing. The single thing out of place was a lampshade for the porch light, which the boyfriend of one of Streeter's friends swept away. In December 1992, an anonymous tipster phoned the America's Most Wanted hotline, claiming they had information about the potential unsolved murders. The caller promptly hung up before they could be transferred to authorities. In 1997, imprisoned convicted kidnapper, robber, and Florida murder suspect Robert Craig told journalists the women had been murdered and buried, never to be recovered. However, there were inconsistencies in his claims that made it difficult to determine whether he was providing false statements. Investigators also received a tape claiming the women were buried under the foundation of a local hospital parking lot. When a crime reporter and mechanical engineer scanned the corner of the lot with a ground-penetrating radar, they found the presence of 3 anomalies, consistent with a gravesite location. But Springfield's police department stated that because the scans were not conclusive, digging up the concrete was not justified. The reappearance of Nicholas Barclay. In this unsolved mystery case involving a real-life changeling, 13-year-old Nicholas Barclay disappeared on June 13, 1994, from his San Antonio neighborhood. After a day of playing basketball with friends, Nicholas was the youngest of 3 kids and had a history of being in trouble. He skipped school, got violent with his family, and even ran away. On the day of his disappearance, he called home to get a ride, but his mother was sleeping, and his brother refused to wake her. Nicholas never made it home that day and was never heard from again. 3 years after his disappearance, the Barclay family received a call from a boy, claiming to be their missing son. He was all the way in Spain, after having been reportedly kidnapped and sold into a European slavery ring. The Barclays were overjoyed, but as soon as Nicholas exited his plane, it became clear that something was wrong. Nicholas looked nothing like the boy who had disappeared 3 years ago. The imposter claimed his abductors chemically changed his eye and hair color, but he also spoke with a thick French accent. While a local TV crew was filming the family, a private investigator working on this production began digging around and found photos that provide physical similarities. The FBI was soon involved, and after running the imposter's fingerprints and a DNA test, they uncovered he was 23-year-old Frederick Pierre Bourdin, a serial imposter who assumed close to 500 identities, including 3 missing children. In 1999, Bourdin would plead guilty to passport fraud and perjury, spending 6 years in prison. The real Nicholas Barclay remains missing to this day. The voice on the phone. Doris Scott was a 32-year-old single mother who had taken up karate and considered buying a handgun after getting repeated anonymous calls from a stalker in 1980. The caller would profess everything from how much he loved her to horrific violence, sprinkling in details about her day-to-day life that he could only know if he was following her. On May evening in 1980, after taking a co-worker to hospital, Scott left to pull her car around. Her co-workers soon after watched her car speed away from the parking lot without stopping. Several hours later and 10 miles away from where she was last seen, her car appeared in an alley of fire with no trace of Scott. A week after her disappearance, Scott's mother received a call from the same voice that had been haunting her daughter and said, quote, "Are you related to Doris Scott?" quote. He asked. When Scott's mother responded yes, the caller stated, "I have got her," before hanging up. Similar ominous calls continued, every time the voice admitting he had her. At one point, Scott's abductor even called the radio station to confess details about Doris's last night that hadn't been released to the press, while also claiming, quote, "I killed Doris Scott. She was my love," quote. 4 years later, in April 1984, the calls stopped. In August of that year, Scott's remains were found by a construction worker in some brush. A week after the bones were identified, Scott's mother got 2 more disturbing calls. "Is Dorothy home?" the caller asked. For sure, mystery surrounds these crimes, but do you think that these cases could get solved, or will they remain mysterious forever? So that's 5 most chilling unsolved crimes. What do you think was the most mysterious on the list? Do let me know in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed, and see you soon in another video.